All right. You're listening to Let's Stay Together live.
Woo!
Woo! You're listening to me play a ukulele live.
Woo! We did it. I'm proud of you.
We did it. Yeah, I did it. I remembered the song. It only took me about 20 minutes. Trailer listened to me while I tried to remember. It was a good time. This is the prep that we're bringing today. Actually, I feel like in terms of what we're talking about today, I've never been more prepared. I've read many things, and I typed many notes. So I hope you're excited.
And there's the bird already.
That's Kayla's pet bird. His name is Bowie. I know this this episode has a lot of like bird talk, but
yeah. That's why he's here. He's our professional
bird.
Professional input. Yeah.
Subject matter expert.
Yeah. He's got bona fides and everything.
Yeah. whatever like qualifications birds have to be birds. So
yeah. He's a professional bird.
He gets paid in seed. Let's get started. This is a podcast about Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya, in case you were not aware of that. And I would hope that everybody who's on the stream is aware, because we are talking about some major reveals today.
It also says it on the stream image.
Very good. Let's do it. Are you ready to jump in? I don't have any banter to talk about today. The only things that we could talk about.
You put a section in the notes for banter.
That's true. I did do that. The only things that I could say are like, what a shit time. What a shit week. How about that? But nobody wants to hear us talk about.
Yeah, you can't even say, how about that local sports team?
I know. There is no local sports team. There are no events. This is the event. Streaming is an event.
Yes. All the events.
Yeah, pretty much, actually. I'm glad that we can provide something exciting, maybe a little bit exciting. So let's do this. Let's jump into it. We're discussing chapters 96 to 99 today. And I hope that everybody has either prepared or is prepared to read along, because we're going to go
Story time with Ellen.
Yeah, it is story time with Ellen. That's what you do most of the time, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have it right here.
Very good. Well, I'm glad you're ready. I hope everybody else is ready. I hope you brought snacks. I hope you brought some drinks or tea. It's going to be a little bit of a long chat, but it'll be a good time. All right, let's jump in. Chapter 96 opens in the past. Teenage Kureno stands with his hands open upward and he cries. Young Akito panics and Kureno narrates, it came all too quickly. An end and a beginning. A liberation and a cage. In the present, Akito lays in bed. The room is dark, though it's daytime. He complains to Kureno that it's cold. Kureno goes and shuts the window, then kneels to check on Akito, asking if he's still not feeling well. Akito asks Kureno to come closer, and Kureno obliges. Akito grabs his shirt. Kureno, he says, I know that I say nasty things about you sometimes, but you know that I know that I'm saying nasty things, right? Kureno remembers Akito calling him inferior at the beach. You know that I don't mean it, Akito says, releasing Kureno's shirt. You know that, don't you? Yes, Kureno says. Akito looks up with pleading eyes. Kureno, you'll always be by my side, right? At first, Kureno doesn't reply. He grimaces sadly and then remembers the two of them holding hands around the same age as the first memory that we saw. Yes, he answers. And they kiss! Ooh, that's exactly what I said when we texted about this earlier. At school, Uo looks outside the window. The kids are all lining up to practice their graduation ceremony outside, but Uo complains that it's cold and she'll be pissed if she gets a cold because of it. Hana says she's never had a cold. I guess it's true that idiots can't catch colds, she says, and Uo's like, that should bother you. Uo complains that she hasn't had any luck since third term. And New Year's flew by. And Tohru looks at her kind of concernedly and thinks that a lot happened at New Year's. We transition to Shisho's house. I assume it's New Year's Day. Rin and Tohru chat, and Rin is sure that she fell asleep sitting up but was laying down when she woke up. Tohru suggests that maybe Shisho laid her down. Impossible, Rin says. If anyone touched me, I would have woken up. Even Ataru-san? Tohru asks. Haru, he's different, Rin says. She turns, suddenly aghast. Who told you about Haru and me? She shouts, and Tohru is like, huh? Rin is like, who told you? Who? Tohru remembers Haru and Hiro talking about Rin at the culture festival, and Tohru kind of covers for it, saying, I mean, maybe this is what they call women's intuition. And Tohru, Rin is like, you don't seem like the type to be gifted with that. But never mind, just don't mention the name again. We already broke up. Yuki knocks on the doorway to speak to Tohru, and Rin leaves immediately without greeting Yuki at all. Like an asshole. Yuki says that he came to wish Tohru Happy New Year, and Tohru notices his head is hurt. She asks what happened. I defied Akito, he says, so he let me have it. Inside I was actually afraid, but I pushed myself a little, And Tohru remembers when she pushed Akito away from the terrified Yuki at school the previous year and smiles. Yes, she says, and Yuki smiles with pride. Lucky, Momiji says, surprising the two of them. I want her to praise me too. And Tohru wishes him Happy New Year, and Yuki asks if he has something that he wants Tohru to praise him about, and Momiji says yes, and Yuki says that he'll head back to Shigure's house. Momiji takes Tohru by the arm and pulls her close, and whispers, I gave the DVD to Kureno. When I gave it to him, my heart was pounding, but still, I'm glad I can make sure he got it. Tohru is overwhelmed, tears well in her eyes, and she tries to thank him, but stumbles over the words. Let's say a prayer, Kay, Momiji says, and takes her hands, and they bow their heads close. Let's pray that he'll watch it. In the present at school, Tohru clasps her hands and thinks, please let Uo-chan's feelings reach Kureno-san. Uo turns to her and asks what she's been doing since she's been spacing out, and Hana calls to them to line up for their graduation practice, and they gather together and smile. Toru's little prayer finishes as they gather, Uo-chan's feelings and her love. At the main house, Hattori and Shigure chat. Shigure casually lays on the floor and reads, and Hattori smokes. He says that Akito has been in bed since New Year's. He must have gotten quite the shock from Yuki's rebellion. Let's have Yuki-kun do the nursing then. Shigure gripes, and Hattori says, don't be stupid. He asks if Shigure will visit, and Shigure says that he tried, but Akito got mad and turned him away. And he recalls the way that Akito reacted, screaming from bed. Why didn't you come right away when that idiot Yuki said all those nasty things to me? Why are you like that? Why don't you ever choose me first? It's so hypocritical, Shigure says. He's the one who chose Kureno. We see a scene interspersed with Shigure and Hattori's conversation. It's now evening. Akito and Kureno lay together in bed, Akito's head on Kureno's arm, face in his chest. Kureno quietly gets up, caresses Akito's cheek, and slips out of the bedroom. Hattori says that even God can pick favorites among the Zodiac. Come on, Hattori, Shigure says. None of you have ever felt it with Kureno. There's something not right about him. He might be, Hattori says, but trails off. You're ducking under this one? Shigure asks. Because you're afraid? Sad? Because you can hate it but not let go of your attachment to it? The bond, I mean? That's not fair. I don't want you telling me that I'm not fair, Hattori says. You're right. Well, Wait, I said this to someone before. Who was that? Does it matter? I'm powerless and worthless, Shigure says. A man of small caliber. I'm the worst of men. The worst thing about you, Hattori says, is that while you realize that, you still don't regret a thing. Shigure smiles a rueful smile.
Not that rueful.
Yeah. More like,
like a whelp.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, if I had described that in an adjective, it would be whelp. It's like moderately rueful, more like whatever, I guess. Not so sad, as we normally mean when we say rueful. Meanwhile, in his office in the dark, Kureno sits at his desk looking down, his elbows resting on his knees, and he plucks the DVD that Momiji gave him off of the shelf and looks at it. He wonders what's on it, and remembers Toru's plea from her Mission Impossible sneaking adventure. As long as you're alive, wishes will keep being made. He rests his forehead on his hands. He inserts the DVD and plays it on the extremely large monitor computer that's nearby. Like, what does he do? What does he need it for? Anyway, he remembers Akito speaking to him as a child. Hey, Kureno, what does it feel like to be a bird? To be able to fly through the sky completely free? Is it fun? Is it exciting? You're lucky. I wish I could become a bird. And Akito smiles. The kids' play unfolds on the screen, the stage curtain, Cinderella Hana giving Tohru some tea. Uo comes on stage and Kureno's eyes widen. He reaches toward the screen. And in the play, Uo says, think of all the star-crossed lovers who would kill for things to see Z. All those star-crossed lovers who just want to see each other. Kureno touches the screen as she screams, come and see me, damn it! Tears in his eyes, he remembers Tohru again, saying that because they can't see each other, Uo has been sad and lonely. Kureno remembers her from their time together over the summer and smiles. Then remembers Akito as a child, looking up, grabbing his shirt and screaming, don't abandon me! Kureno pulls back from the computer, frozen and dead-eyed. The play ends and the DVD stops. In the dark, silent office, he buries his head in his hands. Later at Shigure's house, the phone rings and Shigure answers it, smiling. His expression suddenly darkens and he drops the book he was carrying and smirks. This is unusual, he says, maybe even a first. Tohru-kun's still at school. Why are you asking for her? I don't see the connection. I think the probability of anyone asking for Tohru-kun is pretty low to begin with, but I didn't expect this at all. What business do you have with her? Kureno, who's the caller, says, there might be something I need to talk with you about too, Shigure-Nisan. It's about damn time, Shigure says. By the way, Kureno, can I ask you something? I've been wondering about it for a while. Are you... well, have you... Tohru returns from school and she and Shigure exchange greetings. Shigure confirms that she's alone and apologizes for immediately asking her for something after she got home, but goes ahead and asks her to grab some envelopes for him. Ever the epitome of generosity and responsibility, Tohru says it's no problem and takes off to get them with an "I'm off." Take care, Shigure says from the suspiciously dark panel at the bottom of the page. I gotta get my humor in now, okay?
Shigure corner of the room.
It kind of is in this case. Outside, Tohru walks to the store and contemplates buying some trash bags to go along with her generous responsibility. She sees some cute sparrows and kneels down and extends her hand to them to try to attract them. They get pretty close to her, but suddenly all take off around her, and she turns and sees Kureno walking toward her. We see the time that Akito remembered at New Year's. In the memory, Kureno cries. Akito panics and screams. Kureno stands above Tohru, and we see Shigure's question to Kureno from their phone call. Well, have you been released from the curse? That's the end of chapter 96.
Dun, dun, dun.
There are places in my notes that say pause for Kayla to go dun dun dun. I just want you to know. That wasn't one of them, but it's the natural place.
Here to fulfill my responsibility.
Yeah. I'm having a little tea.
Tohru buys envelopes, I go dun dun dun.
Yeah, she buys trash cans to go with the envelopes, you know.
As you do.
Yeah, she's responsible and whatnot. Chapter 97 opens with Akito waking up saying, Kureno, where are you, Kureno? At the park, or wherever this is that they're meeting, which I refer to as the park quite frequently, so sorry if it's not. It's somewhere on the street.
The sparrow zone.
Yeah, pretty much. Kureno helps Tohru to her feet. Kureno-san, she says, the birds, but they flew away when you arrived. I thought that you were possessed by the spirit of the bird. And when you're possessed by a spirit, that animal... Huh? And then Tohru remembers Yuki being surrounded by rats in the mountains and cats flocking to Kyo at school. Kureno smiles a mournful smile, and he takes Tohru's hand. She remembers the fateful day that she first learned about the Sohma secret. When hugged by the opposite sex, we transform. We transform, and Kureno hugs her, and nothing happens. That was your cue.
Oh, sorry. Well, we already knew from the earlier one.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Right, but I'm not like that anymore, he says. I won't transform. My curse has already been broken. And Tohru is shocked. It happened years ago when I was little. I'm no longer one of the Zodiac. Tohru remembers what Rin and Kyo told her. I can't think of him as one of us. He hardly ever associates with other members of the Zodiac. Kureno remembers Akito smiling and saying he's lucky. I can't fly anymore, Kureno says. At the main house, Akito shoves papers off of Kureno's desk and maids apologize. Apparently Kureno had business he couldn't get away from, they say. We tried to stop him.
That is a really huge monitor. I didn't even notice.
It's so big. It's like the size of a TV. What is he doing? What does he do for the family? These are my questions. A lot of spreadsheets? I don't know.
Akito's personal secretary.
According to Kyo. It's his personal secretary, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yes. Make that joke in non-spoilers now.
Yeah, exactly. They were laying in bed together. So, you know. Akito asks if the maids can contact him, and one says no. It seems he turned off his cell phone. Find him right away, Akito demands, and they hustle out of Kureno's office. He never left without my permission before. Akito slams his fist against the wall. Never. At the park, Tohru releases her grip on Kureno. Why? How did the curse... She stammers. I don't know, Kureno says. I really don't. It happened so suddenly. Without any warning, the curse was broken. And he remembers when his curse broke again. It felt like my field of vision had been abruptly opened, like there was no one inside but me. And there was nothing to drive me away. The sky was so blue that day, and I realized that I would never be able to fly in that sky again. It made me both sad and elated. I was happy. Bird, shush.
He's sad and elated.
Yeah, clearly. It felt like I'd finally become human, he thinks. But the other members of the Zodiac still think you're the bird, and you're still by Akito-san's side, aren't you? Kureno-san, what is it? What is it that you still haven't been released from? Tohru asks. He turns and steps away, and then turns back and hands her the DVD, her note with Uo's contact information tucked inside the case. I'm sorry, your present is wasted on me, he says. I'm just sorry, I came here to tell you that. I won't be seeing Arisa, because from now on, I'll continue to stay by Akito's side. Tohru remembers him saying, I have no intention of seeing her. Twice, he says, it was only twice that I met Arisa and talked with her. They were such tiny, trivial encounters. If it ends now, they'll become a trivial memory, and those will fade to nothing someday. Kureno looks away from Tohru. That's all there is to it. You don't have to worry about it anymore, he says. Tohru cries, and she reaches up and turns his face toward hers. Tears well in his eyes and fall as well. He thinks of his meeting with Uo, her saying, then smile more happily. I don't think it was a waste, because I wanted to see you. Come and see me, damn it. I want to see her. I want to see her, Kureno says as they cry. But it was only twice, but it's still for the first time after becoming human that I, myself, thought I might care for someone. In reality, I could have held her as much as I wanted. I'm not possessed by a spirit anymore. I was released so easily from the curse that everyone still suffers from. I'm free. Me and no one else. I can go anywhere. I can love anyone. But that's exactly why. That's exactly why I have to stay by Akito's side. We see Akito standing in the main house, and then transition to the past. Young Akito screams and sobs, suddenly bursting into where Kureno in what seems like a middle school uniform stands, hands raised and sobbing. A maid tries to calm Akito. Get away from us, Akito screams. Don't let anyone come until I say so. Do you hear me? If anyone comes, I'll kill them. I'll kill them. Akito drags Kureno away to a room and slams the door. Why? Why? Why did it break? It's our bond, Akito says in frustration, face against the door, arms raised and fists clenched. I don't know either. It just happened, Kureno says. Akito looks back at Kureno, terrified. What? No. Those eyes, Akito says. You've been looking at me like that. I don't like it. Why are your eyes so distant? Why are you looking at me with such distant eyes? Stop it. Don't go. Don't leave me. Don't go anywhere, Akito pleads, clutching at Kureno's shirt. Stay with me. You have to. Don't ever leave my side. Don't ever leave me behind. Kureno's eyes widen. Akito gets more and more agitated and starts to cry. Don't abandon me, Kureno. Akito falls to the floor on his knees. Please, I'm begging you, don't go. He cries and rubs his eyes, and Kureno comforts him. To Tohru in the present, Kureno says, I couldn't do it. I couldn't forsake him. For Akito, his bond with us is everything. It makes sense. God can't exist without the Zodiac. So I swore on that day the curse was broken, that I vowed to stay by his side. I wanted to stop Akito's tears, whatever it took. I was willing to lie to the others and pretend I was still possessed by the bird. I was willing, if that's what it took to stop that child's tears. That was all I could think of. We see Kureno in the past calming Akito down. He says to her, he says in the past, I'll always be by your side. I swear it. Akito looks up at Kureno with wide eyes and smiles. In the present, Kureno remembers his phone call with Shigure. Shigure chastises him. You felt sorry for him? Come on, you're not bound by it anymore, right? Don't you think that you should have left him for Akito-san's sake? And not just then, for his sake now? Kureno grimaces and says to Tohru that he couldn't leave Akito. I couldn't do it. I couldn't leave him. It's true that my curse was broken and that the bond I used to feel is gone now, but I can't leave him. He thinks of kissing Akito. Maybe it's out of pity. Maybe it's only out of pity that I hold him. I swore to stay by his side, Kureno says, until the day that he no longer needs me. Akito clung to me and cried so hard I thought he'd break in two. And so for the sake of that girl, I swore I'd keep on living. Can you understand that? Tohru looks up in surprise at Kureno, calling Akito a girl. We see Akito at the main house getting out of the bath. For that child, Kureno says, timid and weak, weaker than anyone, more fragile than anyone, for that sad little girl. That's the end of chapter 97.
Dun, dun, dun.
There you go. Even though I spoiled it 2 seconds before. Asshole. But everybody should have done the reading. I mean. All right. Moving on. Chapter 98. Girl, Tohru says. Akito-san is a girl. She raises her hand to her mouth in shock. It can't be. Is that really true? Kureno assures her that it is. There are many secrets of the Sohma family, he says, and that is one of the biggest. But Akito-san was behaving like a boy. None of the others seem to treat Akito-san like a woman, Tohru says. Since the day that Akito was born, she was raised as a man, Kureno says. That person decided on it. And Tohru asks who. Kureno asks if she remembers when she almost got caught sneaking around the main house. We cut away to the main house. Hattori stops in the hallway and talks to someone through a doorway. The person's arm extends toward him. Akito sees and runs over. Hattori, no, what are you doing? Get away, Akito screams, and stands between Hattori and the person. How many times do I have to tell you? You can't just get near them whenever you want, Akito says. Hattori says that woman was just saying hello. We see her standing in the doorway, eyes in shadow. I was only saying hello to Hattori, she says. Is that so wrong? The minute you see a man from the Zodiac, you start coming on to him, Akito shouts. The woman smirks. Akito tells her to go back to her own room. Kureno explains to Tohru that the person is a little ill physically and mentally. She's usually in a back room, but to Akito, she's still the biggest part of his life. Ren Sohma, Akito's mother.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. This time it is revealed. It's revealed. We see what Ren looks like. And I was like, that's creepy. And then I was like, oh, but maybe, like, it's just, there's something about the way that she's drawn that, like, really touched me in a way that made me feel deeply concerned. And I was like, we talked a long time about what Akito looks like in the first reveal back in, like, I don't know, volume 4. I don't remember what chapter specifically it is. I have put the 2 images of them in my notes for comparison. I think that Ren is drawn in a way that is somehow more intimidating than Akito. Just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about her later. For sure, in detail, for sure. Tohru is again shocked and clenches her fist to her chest, and Kureno explains that Ren was the one who decided. Neither Akito nor Ren will explain the reason for it. There's only one thing we know for sure, Kureno says. Those 2 truly hate each other. Back at the main house, Ren chastises Akito. Do you always have to have such a dirty mouth? Everyone in the Zodiac will stop acting so nice to you, Akito-san. And Hattori, she says, reaching out to touch his face. You poor thing. Hattori's not a poor thing, Akito argues and stands between Hattori and Ren again. And they're not acting nice. We're connected through a bond. We're in a world someone like you could never be a part of. Ren looks exasperated. You're still spouting all that garbage, you stupid child. How many times do I have to tell you? A love connected by such a bond isn't real. The permanence that you've been hanging on to so zealously is a sham. That permanence is a delusion. I feel sorry for all the members of the Zodiac being made to keep you company. Akito suddenly snaps and chokes Ren against the wall, and Hattori pulls her back. Then tell me what is real, Akito screams. The love of a parent? Even that isn't perfect. Even just within the Sohma, there are tons of parents who leave their kids, just like you did. No one, not even you, can define what's real, what's a lie, what's pretense, and what's worship. My bond with everyone, my permanence, no one has the right to get rid of them. The real thing, Ren asks. The real thing does exist, and I have it. I have it with Akira-san. The bond between Akira-san and me, that's real. I'll kill you, Akito screams, and lunging forward again but is held back by Hattori. I'll kill you! Fine, kill me. If I die, my soul will rise to heaven, and then I can go to Akira-san. I surely don't need someone like you, Ren says. Akito grimaces and tears well in her eyes. She remembers her father kneeling in front of her saying, my child, born to be loved. We've all been waiting for you, Akito. At the park, Kureno explains that Ren doesn't believe in the bond. She thinks that it's unnatural, that it can't be real. She constantly butts heads with Akito about it, who clings to the bond. Kureno remembers and reveals to Tohru what happened the day that Akito was conceived. I woke up crying, he says. Shigure, Yame, and Hattori came too. They also are the only ones who know that Akito is a woman, and Ritsu was too young, presumably, and didn't understand. All 4 of them had the same dream. The god that they hadn't seen yet, Akito, appeared and said, we'll meet soon. They ran straight to Ren, who didn't even know that she was pregnant yet. We kept crying around her, Kureno says. We've been waiting, we said. We've been waiting. From deep inside my heart, I was filling up with a feeling that belonged to a me that I didn't know. And in his memory, Shigure, Yami, and Hattori, and Kureno all extend their hands out toward Ren's abdomen. I felt like a me who wasn't me was shouting. The voice of the spirit, another self that lived inside me, he explains to Tohru. The blood of the spirit. Even if a new sense of self was born, the spirit's blood would condemn it. Don't betray Akito. Tohru remembers Rin's explanation of the bond. God and the Zodiac spirits made a promise to be together for eternity, even if they were reborn several times. Kureno explains that now that his curse is broken, he does look back on it as a natural like Ren. Yet there was one more thing I could see, he says. A girl, crying. At the main house, Akito cries and Tori tries to calm her down. Maids arrive and take Ren back to her room. And as she's being led away, Ren says, I wonder, can you really win like that? Akito cries on Hattori's shoulder. Why does she always say such awful things? They're so cruel. Hattori picks up her coat and remembers Akito asking him to carry her as a child. So Hattori picks up Akito and carries her back to her room. At the park, Kureno says, I can't meet with Arisa. Not when there's another girl that I have to stay beside. I'm sorry, I probably told you too much and confused you. I know that Akito hurts people without any qualms, but I wanted you to know that Akito is battered and torn himself. I wanted you to know that, just a little, why I can't leave him. Tohru cries and grips at her coat. She thinks, I should have more to say, but the words won't come out. They won't. Kureno cups her cheeks. I'm sorry, all I ever do is hurt people. Still, this is the path I've chosen. I chose it on my own. I'm the one who decided this. He smiles, a he says, and he smiles, sort of like sad but trying to be reassuring smile as she cries. I'm sorry. Thank you for everything. Kureno leaves. Tohru drops the DVD and falls to her knees and cries. Rin happens to pass by, and she's surprised to see Tohru upset and then glares as she notices Kureno leaving and doesn't stick around. I can't move anymore. I won't, Tohru thinks. I won't move anymore. Kureno-san, Uo-chan, and she thinks of Kureno, Uo, and Akito, and Kyo, and looks terrified. At the main house, Kureno returns to Akito's bedroom. He says that he wanted to get some fresh air outside. I'm sorry, it won't happen again, he says. And Akito slaps him, hard. She cries and then touches his face, and he holds her. We see Toru's narration. All the sadness is connected like a spiral, and I can't move. At the end of the chapter, Hanajima grimaces and stands. It's the end of chapter 98. So many things happened. I need to have tea before I move on. I said so many things. All right. Chapter 99 opens at night. Toru is still on her knees in the park, and the wind blows her scarf away. Hana arrives with Megumi, coming up behind Toru, and Toru looks over her shoulder. You called me, so I came running, Hana says. Da-da-da-da-da. Actually, I don't know what her little tune is, but that's what I imagine it was.
I like to think of it as the Zelda.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're on the same wavelength there.
No, sir, you cannot have tea. Come here. There's so much sugar in that, it would probably kill you instantly.
Oh, no.
It's sweet tea.
Have a little burning heart attack. We don't want that. These are the things that you miss that I cut out of the recording. I hope everyone's enjoying. Tears well in Toru's eyes again, and Hana smiles reassuringly. Toru wipes her eyes, and Hana helps her up. At Shigure, as Yuki answers the phone. I said I've taken Toru-kun into my custody, and I won't be giving her back tonight. You do realize what you sound like, Hanajima-san, Yuki says. Are you objecting to our nightwear soiree? She asks. He's like, you mean a pajama party? No, it's fine. In Japanese, she says, Nemaki Matsuri, which I thought was really funny. Matsuri is like festival.
Yeah.
And I guess like Nemaki just means like sleepwear, but it just was hilarious. I like pajama or nightwear soiree though.
Yeah,
I think that's a great
translation.
I also think it's a great thing, and we should just say it all the time. I motion to call PJ party nightwear soiree from now on.
Do like formal invitations.
Yeah.
Invited to attend a nightwear soiree.
I can get behind this. Where's the e-fight? Okay. I see. We'll leave it at that, Hana says, and immediately hangs up. Yuki's like, yikes, and thinks that it's fine, but it's kind of a little weird, and wonders if something happened to Toru. Shigure asks who was on the phone. Yuki says that it was that Toru staying the night at Hana's. Wow, he wonders, was it that much of a shock? Yuki's like, I guess I could try making dinner. I haven't in a while. Do we have a cookbook? That's terrifying. Let's not do that, Shigure says, grabbing his shoulder. Yuki's like, please, all I'm lacking is drive, I think. You mean talent? Shigure asks. I feel like this is the humor break we needed after everything.
I like his little like determined sparkle at the corner of his eye.
It's good. It's very good. It was a nice little interaction. Meanwhile, at Hana's house, Hana's adorable mother asks if Toru is eaten and what she would like. I'd like shark fin, Hana says, and her mom is like, but that's not what you want, Saki-chan, and you just ate. Megumi says that Toru isn't hungry and says that it's more important to make tea. Hana tells him, when she gets here, take care of things. In Hana's room, Toru sits, her fist still clenched. Hana returns with tea and serves it, and Toru asks why Hana was there. Because you were crying, she says. Although it was a voice that only I could hear, you were crying. It was practically a scream. Something upsetting happened, I presume. Toru looks away. I'm confused about a lot of things. And she remembers all the things that she and Kureno talked about. Akito, his curse being broken. Akito is a girl. Akito's mother. And Uo. Toru cries. Kureno-san is a Sohma. I just wanted him to meet with Uo-chan. And I asked him, but he says he can't see her because there's someone else that he has to be with. Kureno-san is so kind. Instead of his own feelings, he cares more about the feelings of someone else. I couldn't say anything. All I've done is cause trouble, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't be of any help. He cares about the feelings of others, Hana says. Then that makes him just like you, Toru-kun. I do worry about you. You accept the feelings of others, and very carefully you carry them, and carry them, and carry them. Someday in the future, you may be crushed by them. Elsewhere, Near the park, Kyo waits across the street, and he sees a scarf lying in the road getting run over by cars. He remembers Tohru showing him a similar scarf. Look, I bought a new scarf, she says excitedly in the memory. It has pom-poms. It looks like if you'd hit someone if you spun around, Kyo says, and Tohru spins and hits him with a pom-pom. Take that, she shouts, and he's like, hey. She smiles a bright smile. Kyo sees the scarf getting run over again in the road, and then moves. At Hana continues, and if you're crushed, I worry that your smiling face will disappear. Truly, if such a thing were to happen, hell would freeze over, Uo says, bursting into the room. Hana explains that she called Uo, who ran there from work, to meet them. Tohru looks away, and Uo sits. How do I say this? I made you cry, Uo says. That means I suck. You do nothing of the sort, Uo-chan, Tohru says. You're not someone who can help. You're not someone who can't help, okay? I love you, you idiot, Uo says, tears welling in her eyes. And she pulls Tohru into a big hug, and Tohru cries too. Uo reassures her that it's okay. And this time she means it. You and Kureno-san are the same kind of stupid. I must really like that kind of stupid, huh? I hate causing problems for people like you. Just leave it. It can't be helped, Uo says, and she looks up as if she's truly relieved. It can't be helped. Are you speaking of a lost love, Arisa-san? Megumi pipes up, snapping Tohru and Uo out of their cute moment together. Bad boy, Megumi, you have to speak more carefully in times like these, Hana says. But Megumi says, there are some things that take a long time to acquire. Friends, love, really nothing has been a waste. Well, obviously, Uo says. That's already my creed. Now that all the crying is over, Hana suggests they get the party started in earnest, and Tohru offers to help, of course. Megumi says, I'm surrounded by older women. How very exciting. And Uo's like, easy there. Later in the evening, Tohru and Uo are the first to fall asleep. Megumi comments that Arisa was given closure for her feelings as well, and is probably relieved. Or one of them comments, the dialogue is ambiguous. Hana and Megumi are talking to each other. I wonder if the possibility is gone, Megumi asks. That may be another story, Hana says. Love is difficult, he says, and Hana says, indeed. We see the narration, whatever happens in the night, morning always comes. Always. Has there ever been a night that had no dawn? Let's start again, one day at a time. The next morning, Tohru returns home with envelopes because she's responsible. She knows there's a scarf drying on the floor, and it's like, is that my scarf? So it was yours, Kyo says, who has come in to dig around in the fridge after getting ready, I guess. Tohru returns surprised. I'm glad I guessed right. It was all beat up on the ground, so I kind of washed it, but I didn't get it very clean. If that bothers you, buy a new one. Tohru lifts the scarf and looks at it, then wraps it around her neck. Hey, it's not dry yet, Kyo says, and she spins and hits him with a pom-pom. I've warned you, he says, and Tohru beams. Thank you so much. I promise I won't ever drop it again. Kyo looks away, blushing, and says, sure. Yuki comes downstairs and sees them smiling, and he smiles as well and joins them in the kitchen. And later at school, Tohru meets up with Uo and Hana. We see Toru's narration. I want to keep things going. I want to untangle the cords one by one. The words, the facts, all the things that Kureno-san told me. He said so much. The last scene of the chapter, Shigure complaining to Tohru, who's concerned. Man, after seeing Yuki-kun's cooking last night, I remembered how grateful I am for you, Tohru. And if asked, I would have to say that it was an absolute train wreck. I was this close to being sent to Hades. Yuki nearby thinks, maybe I am lacking in talent. That's the end of the chapters that we're covering today. I was like, remember this detail about Yuki cooking for later because it comes back. What a roller coaster ride of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
This is just to start discussion. Did you know that these chapters are approximately just over 70% of the way through the series? We're getting close.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. So kind of like, I feel like it makes sense. There's like a reveal at the beginning, which is like the setup, which is the curse. Then there's kind of like a quarter of the way through, there's the Kyo stuff. Halfway through is the beach arc, where there's more, the curse gets a lot more development. And then now we're like, you know, almost 3/4 of the way through, and this is like one of the other kind of like big reveals that's coming before the end of the series, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sort of a gift basket of big reveals.
I have so many things to talk to you about. Listen, this is the longest document of notes I've ever made, probably. Probably even more than the true form discussion, even though we covered more things, or like we covered the same amount of chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the true form was kind of like one big event.
Mm-hmm.
This is like several
small big events.
Yeah, and it kind of goes like there's a lot of transitions, like back in time, back to the present, to this place, to that place. So
Yeah, it was kind of difficult. I split people who were reading along at home, and you probably noticed that when we do these chapters like this, I split up a lot of things. So like, I'll just be like, I'm going to combine all this narration, even though it's like interspersed with different scenes, or like describe this one scene at this one time, even though it's like also interspersed, because it's just doesn't really. I can't like jump back and forth. It doesn't narrate as well. But there was a lot of that. There's a lot of back in time, various amounts of back in time, various different places. There's like the past and the the like, I don't know, recent past. I didn't call anybody baby today.
I was just about to say that. I was just deciding who to use as the example. Baby Kureno, baby Kureno.
baby. Well, baby Kureno would have had to have been like 5 minutes before, because the only like there was like, or like a day before, because the only recent flashback was like, well, I guess there was the beach.
Well, he had his like his like middle school curse breaking flashback, and then like when they were kids, when they were creeping out Rensan.
You're right. That must have been so weird.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine. When I read this the first time, I was like, yeah, whatever, they're possessed. Like, I don't know. And then now I'm like, that is very weird.
Weird zombie children.
It's one of the weirdest things that, like, I feel like is a side effect of the curse out of all of the things that we talked about, actually. That's probably like the weirdest single moment in maybe. I don't know. Yeah. That's my opinion, but it's very strange. It's very like, it must have been very unnerving. Plus, Ren already has like a bunch of issues.
Yeah, she was,
which we'll touch on, I'm sure. Yeah. Actually, maybe we should just start. Do you want to talk about what should we talk about first? Actually, I have an idea. Or do you want to talk about Ren?
Go ahead. I was going to say, take your pick of the reveals.
Yeah, I know. Well, what I was going to say was, let's like do an update to the curse, because we haven't really done that in a while, and this is like the first time that we had some major things. Let me do a breakdown. So what we've learned so far is when the Zodiac are weak or they're hugged, they transform for an indeterminate period of time. They sometimes have qualities of the animal spirit, even in their sort of like non-animal form that we've seen. They also attract animals to them that are their Zodiac form, and they seem to understand them, like Shigure and the wolves and stuff like that we've seen so far. And didn't Kyo have that conversation with the cat? Or like he understood that her narration is presented. Yeah. It sounds like they had a conversation. Their animal forms also have changed over time, like such as Satori. So I guess he used to be a dragon, and now or the dragon spirit used to transform into a dragon, but now it transforms into a sea dragon.
It's been a much more difficult secret to keep back then.
Yeah, probably. They're even more isolated. The cat also has some additional... Huh?
I know it's not passed through... It doesn't seem to be passed through the spirit, but it's like, that's why the dragon has the memory erasing power.
I don't know. We don't know that. His dad could have... His, like, great-great-grandfather could have been a dragon. They're all like... I mean, they're all sort of, like, distantly related. So, who knows? That could be true. I don't know. It's definitely not stated. That's what would you call that? Conjecture. Yeah. Yeah, the dragon needs the memory technique. The cat, well, I guess first of all, it's the Zodiac animals and the cat from the legend that are included in the spirits. And the cat also has an additional form, which is sort of like physically exaggerated and grotesque in terms of the way it smells and looks. And it's sort of kept in check by this bracelet. The bracelet is some kind of like spiritual relic that was made with bones and blood, supposedly, according to what Kyo had heard. And we learned the curse does break. This is the update from this series of chapters that we read. And I think there's some interesting things that I want to note about the way that Kureno talked about the curse breaking, which I didn't really like deeply think about before we started this podcast, but he said some things that are intriguing to me.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot more about like the bond aspect of the curse lately, and there's a lot in these chapters.
So he says that when the curse broke, it felt like there was no one inside but me, which is kind of interesting. We also saw, and he also talked about when Akito was conceived, that he felt the feeling of like being filled up with this other emotion that didn't come from like himself, that seemed to come from the spirit. So it seems like we never really heard anything about how they perceive like their possession, I guess, before. So it seems like, at least to someone like Kureno, he sort of felt he could feel the difference between like himself, quote unquote, and the spirit.
Yeah. Well, Kureno's the only one who would have a, basis of comparison.
Yeah, that's true.
Having been possessed and not possessed.
Yeah, but it's like he describes it when Akito was conceived too. So I wonder if the others felt it too, like Ayame and Shigure, and it kind of raises an interesting question.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if like they all obviously felt it, but I wonder if like it's only like looking back that he realizes like that wasn't really me, like feeling that kind of thing, or or at least more clearly, since because like he even says like now that my curse is broken, I'm looking back on it, it does feel unnatural. And
yeah, for sure. It seems like it could be something that it's easier to perceive now that he's like on the other side of it.
Yeah, the line he said that I thought was interesting when he was talking about his relationship with Uo, where he says like, it's the first time that I myself felt like I cared for someone. Which made it seem like he thought like all the like emotions, particularly of attachment, I guess, toward Akito, were, you know, some other person inside him, and now that's the first time he felt like his actual self felt like he was attached to someone.
Yeah, it's interesting. He also describes himself as feeling like human. He's like, since I became human, he was the first person I felt attraction to since I became human or something. It's an interesting wording in that too.
Yeah.
But then we don't really hear things like that from people like Yuki or Akio, like characters like them that are younger, who maybe have always been around since Akito was around. So.
Yeah, we get a little bit. Sorry, it's slightly a different topic.
That's fine.
But we get a little clarity on some timeline stuff from these chapters too, because we know that it seems like the Mabudachi trio, Kureno and Ritsu, were born before Akito, and everyone else was born after. But Ritsu was pretty young at the time because he doesn't remember all this stuff that they do.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to understand or remember, or like didn't understand / doesn't remember that Akito is. I don't know what else he's implying, but he was specifically talking about that Akito is a girl and was raised as a man, I guess, or as a question mark. Whatever.
Yeah, it also seems like he wasn't in the scene where they were all drawn to Ren.
That's true.
So he's probably like too young to.
A little baby.
He probably felt it, but too young to like act on it.
Yeah, a baby.
Anyway, yeah,
baby. To maybe even like conceive of what had happened.
Yeah.
I mean, that was everything that I wanted to kind of like talk about the curse. It's just like we learned kind of like how the bond feels. Oh, it's interesting that Kureno says like, so when the curse breaks, he says that, you know, he felt sadness and happiness, which is kind of reminded me of when Yuki met Akito for the first time. There was the same kind of feelings of conflicted feelings of like this, I don't know, like maybe the dual nature of the bond and the curse.
Yeah. Yeah, because they talk about when we have Yuki's scene, it was all about like loving and hating Akito, wanting to be near and run away.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. So I could see how you could have the same feeling from the bond breaking. It's like, oh, it's like I miss this, but I don't. Like
Yeah. But I just thought it was kind of interesting that it was the same reaction, almost like the same reaction, losing that as opposed to like kind of maybe like feeling it for the first time. Like it's kind of hard to tell when they're little. Do they understand? Do they have the feeling of like attraction to or like a feeling of what the bond is until they meet Akito? Like those are the kind of the questions that I felt like this sort of raised. What like does somehow like knowing somehow like the presence of the god of the zodiac being around kind of like change the experience of being possessed?
Yeah.
Based on what they described. It seems like it does a little bit.
Yeah, it does seem like it.
It's never described, but
it's like they in this chapter they talk about it like it's like the god they hadn't met saying we'll meet soon, and they're like, oh, we've been waiting for you.
Yeah, they didn't even realize. It seems like they're like, as Kureno says, you know, his like quote unquote human self wasn't something that he felt before, I guess.
Yeah.
But you know, they say absence makes the heart grow fonder. I mean, I want to talk about Akito. Let's do it.
Okay.
A lot of this revolved around a lot of these chapters obviously revolved around Akito's relationship with the Junichi and Ren. So we were introduced to Ren, who's Akito's mother. And then
we've seen
Oh yeah, we have seen
lurking in the background a few times.
sending her arm out of
Yeah.
doorways and stuff.
Mhm.
There's something creepy about that too. Like, I don't know, like Ren's sort of the way that she's presented in this
Mhm.
encounter is very intense.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. Way back when we first saw a glimpse of Ren, and it was during that little scene where Tohru was sneaking in,
Mhm.
and Tohru mistook her for Akito at first.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, which is kind of like, makes sense in retrospect now for multiple reasons.
Yes.
Something wrong?
No. No. Oh, so I'm looking at the chat. Someone in the chat commented the translation note says that Hana's dun 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 is Beethoven's fifth. So dun 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 dun. Thanks. I appreciated that.
Yeah. Also
Kayla can
appropriate.
see me moving around, but you guys can't. The chat is behind my microphone. I was just like, oh, someone commented something. Anyway, it's very exciting. Okay, so anyway, yeah, Akito. Yes, it is interesting, and so that's right. It was foreshadowing that Tohru thought that it was Akito's voice or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Something like that. It sounded like Akito, but it wasn't. Of course, it makes more sense now because we know that Akito is a woman and they're
Ren is her
related.
mother, yeah.
So I guess that means they probably have similar voices. I don't know.
Yeah.
Also, her behavior is kind of not dissimilar from Akito's.
Mhm.
He was like creeping, getting all grabby with Kureno, and also later with Itori too. So
yeah,
I wonder who Akito modeled that behavior off of.
Yeah, another very healthy parent-child relationship from Furuba.
Oh, good. I just learned so many things about how to be a good parent.
Yeah, good guy to be a good parent is read Furuba and don't do that.
Any of those things. For the most part, yeah. There's a couple people who are good, but yeah, in this case, I think Ren is one of the worst. I don't know. We don't get a lot of detail about their relationship though at this point.
Mhm.
Like it's they hate each other, and that was demonstrated by Akito choking her also.
Yeah.
And
I think just the Akito being the way Akito is pretty good evidence that Ren was not a good parent.
Yeah. I'm thinking that Akira wasn't a hugely great parent either, though. We saw one little like memory of someone who called. I just went ahead and said that it was Akito's father, but it was someone calling Akito my child or something like that.
I think it's pretty fair to go with the assumption that that person is Akito's father and that her father was probably this Akira.
Yes. Well, and Ren.
I don't know if we've had. Huh? Have we had Akira's name mentioned before? I feel like it might have been mentioned in passing, but
I can't remember if we've talked about it in spoilers or not, but definitely I've said it for sure.
Yeah.
So I think it might have been mentioned in passing. They definitely talked about like the late head of the family or whatever.
Yeah.
That one, and like, but I don't remember if they specifically mentioned his name. But
but yeah, I think you can extrapolate by Ren waxing poetic about Akira and then it transitioning to that panel of Akito and person calling her my child, that Akira is Akito's father.
So. Akito's father.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ren has this Ren. So Akito and Ren have a debate about the curse. Ren says that it's or the bond, not specifically the curse. They don't call it that, but Ren says that the bond is not real. The feelings of attraction and attachment from the bond aren't real. But what Ren had with Akito's father, Akira, is real. That's the real deal. And then we have this like memory of Akira telling Ren that Akito was meant to be loved and stuff like that. So there's a sort of a conflict that I think is established here, that Akito kind of believes that. I like how Ren was like, "Oh, you still believe that garbage?" Like I was like, "Well, that's harsh," but also comment that because we see all the people in the family who are like the maids and stuff are like, "Oh, like all the Junichi have this amazing bond and we can't understand it. Like they all cry when they meet Akito. They all have this. We just can't understand anything about this relationship." And Ren is like, "That's all bullshit." Basically, it's very interesting. It's the first person who we've really seen who had kind of like an actual sort of counter opinion.
Yeah,
about the
it's like, yeah, and she's like straight up dismissive about it, which like we
Mhm.
see people like questioning the the nature of the bond and everything
Yeah.
before, but it's you mostly been from people have like more conflicted feelings over it rather than Ren, who's just like, oh, that's stupid.
Yeah, like I mean, there was actually a really good reference in these chapters that we read that was Rin explaining like, oh, the Junichi and the Zodiac made this bond, they would be together, but like they kind of speak about it in a way that's like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like,
Mhm.
And as opposed to Akito fervently being like, this is good, even though we
Mhm.
see sort of the way that it's enacted. Like I think as an audience, we're led to believe that it's bad, right?
Yeah.
I would say. Um,
Yeah. But I think this chapter kind of puts some of Akito's behavior into a different light, not a better light, but like you see like Akito is absolutely desperate to maintain that bond. Like it is
Mhm.
terrifying for her
Mhm.
that anything might threaten it. And so you can see like why she's done a lot of the things she's done in the series from
Yep.
that perspective. Like,
Yep. And Kureno
like
says
we,
that himself too, which is kind
yeah,
of interesting.
and like we saw a bit of it in the previous chapters when she like freaked out on Yuki
Mhm.
having the distant eyes, which we see now why that was so upsetting to her.
Yes.
And then we see in this chapter like the flashback. She's like, it's pretty unsettling since she's so young in the flashback.
Yes.
Like to see her that absolutely like
Screaming.
terrified and screaming and desperate.
Eyes.
Like,
Yeah. The way that it's drawn is definitely very touching. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? Like and Kureno is also like a child. I mean, he's like I think he's wearing a middle school uniform. I think implied.
Yeah, he says he was a little younger than Tohru when
Right.
his curse broke, so.
Right. So, I mean, he's still also a child. Like, what are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
screaming. Someone who you've known your whole life, someone who's, closer to you than probably your own parents, like your other family that you have this like you previously had this deep relationship with. Like what would you do? I mean, I
Yeah.
think like yeah, you would probably try to comfort that child. Shigure is like, why don't you just leave him? And it's like,
Yeah.
he makes it sound so easy, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and we also get to see like we saw in Yuki's baby flashback that like he said that like Akito had a temper sometimes, but was mostly just kind of a kid.
Yeah,
and then like something changed and made her snap, and this seems to be
yeah. I would say this is the thing.
that event. Yeah. But we can see even we have several. Excuse me. We have several. I'm having trouble with my S's.
I didn't know how weird things I said so far.
Yeah. So, we see several flashbacks in these chapters of Akito as a child with like Kureno and Hattori and stuff, and they seem to be pretty like positive interactions and memories. Like she's just being a kind of a sweet kid, like interacting with these people, like
being a cute little girl, being like, I want, oh, it's cool that you can fly, or like pick me up, or whatever.
Yeah, she's like asking to be held and holding hands with them, and like sitting, swinging her feet, and asking what it's like to be a bird and stuff. Like it's very cute. Innocent. She's very cute in their flashbacks.
And then you get to but then you like, you're right. Looking back at like the times that we saw with like Yuki or others, even as the child, Akito had seemed to be pretty like violent or angry or whatever. Like obviously this seems like probably this was weighing on her mind. I would imagine. Because this seemed to happen around or before. Like we remember. I mean, I don't know. It's a little bit hard to tell, but Akito seemed pretty young in the Yuki's memories, and then a little bit older in the ones where she was being super like violent or whatever. So yeah, I would imagine that this is the trigger.
Yeah, and so like you can say like it doesn't justify any of Akito's behaviors, but you can see where it came from to have that, like, you grow up with this bond, this assurance that I think even that one panel we see of her father with the like you were meant to be loved. Like so you grew up with, this thing that like, oh, all these people adore you and are meant to adore you and worship you. And then having Ren be like, no, it's all bullshit. And then have one of your worshippers suddenly vanish, essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
show that, maybe she's right. It's not so permanent and definitive. So you can kind of see where that desperation to keep everyone close comes from.
Yeah. And then the way the desperation then manifests is like abuse instead of something else.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. And you can kind of see like where that would come from. I mean, like she wasn't being like outwardly abusive to Kureno, but she's screaming and crying and desperate, and that made Kureno stay. So
it worked.
Yeah, if it works, you're going to keep doing it.
It keeps working.
Yeah.
It's worked all this time. In fact, we see, actually, I think this behavior, so most of the time that we've seen Akito so far, it's been a lot of like angry behavior and like violent behavior, but this chapter had a lot of just the crying, manipulative behavior. Not even manipulative, I mean, it's probably legitimately scary and sad and upsetting, but like I think the extent and the expectation that like Kureno and Hattori and people, and Shigure, she was really mad at Shigure who, when he didn't show up and like try to tend to her right away, like the expectation that they have and like tend to her every, emotional need. I think we saw that a lot more and saw how she struggles to kind of maintain those feelings when bad things happen.
Yeah.
But she's always grown up surrounded by people to support her, theoretically, I guess. So
yeah.
With no one else to, without needing to kind of rely on herself to deal with her emotions, I suppose.
Yeah.
Particularly the older.
Yeah, no like healthy counter to that. Like the only counter to that is Ren, who's like, this
is all made up.
Yeah. Not exactly a support system and not exactly unbiased in her own way either. So
it's kind of like, it's like if you were surrounded by people who just worshipped everything that you do and didn't question anything that you do, and then someone who questions literally every single thing that you do, like, what are you going to do? You're going to turn to the other people. Like,
yeah.
Because even like the maids or like people who have a potentially different perspective, they all they fall in line and they're like, yeah, the bond is great. It's amazing and beautiful. It's great, I guess.
Yeah.
I think that anyway, there's that. I was about to jump into spoiler territory, and then I remember we can't cut. So I can't say anything bad.
Yeah, there's something earlier. I was about to be like, have we talked about this yet, or is that not come up yet? And I was like, oh, I can't do that.
Don't even say. Don't even ask. All right.
So should we talk more about the Akito as a woman reveal?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
it's a good time because we talked about kind of like how that became sort of like what we heard from Kureno was that, Ren. It was Ren's decision to raise her as a man for whatever reason.
Yeah. So yeah, I think first of all, we're not super qualified in this area, but we're
doing our best.
We use female pronouns for Akito. Following this point we've used it in spoilers and now in discussion territory. Just because Akito was like forced into the being raised as a man. It wasn't a choice that she made, and she doesn't seem to particularly identify strongly with being a man. It's just how she was raised and taught to act. So,
I feel the same way as you.
I think there's
yeah,
there's definitely other ways to interpret it, and those are equally valid, but that's kind of how we sort of interpret it, and so we go with the female pronouns for Akito.
It's kind of interesting. It was hard for me to actually do this when I was reading it. When I wrote it, everything was cool. When I was reading it this time, I was like, Akito does blah 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 blah, and then Kureno was like, I can't leave him. I was like, what am I saying? Who am I talking about? It was a little bit weird, but I agree with what Kayla's saying. Also, we're not super qualified, and other than that, we live in the world and try to be reasonable allies. But I don't think there's anything about Akito doesn't necessarily. I don't think that Akito's gender identity is male. Like, I think it was forced on her. She acts in a specific way, but then sometimes she acts in a way that I think is like decidedly feminine by at least stereotypically. Like, I think that she, if you look back at some of the scenes that I think were like kind of could be interpreted as being like possessive or homosexually romantic or whatever in some of the scenes that we've seen before of Akito like draped all over Haru or Shigure. Like it's not like Akito does that with the like, you know, women of the zodiac, but I guess that's you could be like not whatever. Like it's not like your gender determines your sexuality, obviously. So.
Yeah.
But like I think that and also this is all based on our like reading of the rest of the story too. So we've gotten only a very small glimpse now into we've seen Akito's behavior, but not a lot of it, and we've kind of gotten a small glimpse into the reason why Akito has this I don't know, like persona. I don't even know if it's her actual like identity, but the way that she acts and stuff. Like I think that's why I'm just trying to give some more validation to what Kayla's saying, but that's why we refer to her it's with female pronouns and whatever.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I could easily see different interpretations of that, and I could also see how aspects of Akito's story and background could resonate with the trans experience. So
yeah, for sure.
There's definitely other ways to interpret it, but for the sake of our discussion, we're going to go forward using the female pronouns for Akito. I also think, Japanese is a language with lots of ways to gender neutrally refer to people. So I think it's much easier to avoid that question.
Yeah, it was
in Japanese.
I remember reading a long time ago, it was all hearsay, I don't know what the actual source was, but I remember reading a long time ago that the original translators were like, oh shit, did we translate this wrong the whole time?
Yeah.
But it's obviously like leading up, meant to be like a big reveal that's led up to. You don't have to, a lot of the speech doesn't even have, it's either like a person's name or there's just no pronoun because like it's interpreted to know who they're talking about. So in English, we have to use pronouns, so they just substitute in he a lot. Probably even in these scenes that a lot of the ones that we read after the reveal are just like there is nothing specifically said. I don't know if I didn't look at it in detail, but yeah, it's easier to not have that be a thing. And then I think Akito continues to refer to herself in a way that a man would. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily part of her. Preferred identity, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, for the sake of discussion, that is what we'll be talking about. In terms of like, I don't like, there isn't a reason that's given at this point as to why Ren chose to raise Akito in this way. We can discuss an interpretation of that, or do you feel comfortable doing that at this time?
I mean, I think we could make some extrapolations, but I think a lot of it will have to wait for spoilers.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, I guess like generically, I would assume that, Akito's going to be the head of the family. So maybe they wanted to, or Akito is the head of the family. It's not specified yet at this point how that came to be, but obviously Akito's their only child, or at least we haven't heard of any other siblings or anything that Akito has. So I guess we can make the assumption that maybe that was the part of the decision. Like, I don't.
Yeah, like we get the impression that the Sohmas are a very old and very old-fashioned family, so you can definitely see them being like, oh well, the head of the family has to be a man, or at least project herself like a man, and that kind of attitude and everything.
Yeah, I think that could be one of the reasons. Could be a reason.
Disagree?
He's like, why not, bird?
Yeah. He's like, why is the bird the first one out of the story? Species.
Exactly. Trying to decide if I have any other things that I want to say specifically about this reveal about Akito. Is there anything that you wanted to add?
Not too much. I didn't. It's just it's something that's, I think, puts some stuff we see in the past in a different light, and will continue to affect things going forward. It's a big kind of game changer for Akito as a character, I think. Not necessarily in like it doesn't make like, oh well, now everything's okay or whatever, but it definitely changes kind of some of your perspective, and not just like, oh, she's a woman, that makes things different. The fact that she's a woman and not that many people know, and was raised as a man, and all that stuff kind of changes. And
also has a poor relationship with the person who kind of like made that decision. It doesn't seem like they're on the same page about many things in their lives. So like it seems like there's a conflict that's causing some of potentially leading to some of his behavior. So yeah, I would agree with you.
Like does not seem to be a decision that was made in a neutral environment. Like,
I'm thinking that's a no.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't like they're like, yeah, we all agree this is a good idea.
Yeah,
and
this makes sense. We should do it.
This. No, it doesn't seem like that was the case. So, but yeah, I think like we probably need to wait for more detail to discuss any further.
Yeah.
Probably. But well, except for spoilers, we have that. Okay. Who else can we talk about? We kind of talked about Kureno. Is there anything more to say about him?
Well, we've talked about how isolated Kureno feels even compared to the other Junichi in the past. And yeah, we kind of get like the reason for that in these chapters, which
all the suspicion around him was turned out to be accurate. So it seems like, I guess something we could have said about the curse in addition to the things I already listed is like, seems like they can tell. It's not like they all had to be like introduced, I guess. Like they could somehow tell that other people are affected by the curse.
Yeah, like there seems to be a bond like between the Junichi in addition to between the Junichi and God. It
doesn't seem to just be like a hub and spoke. It seems to be they're all connected.
Yeah, there's like some kind of awareness of each other at least.
Or at least like, I don't know, maybe they can sense it. Maybe it's like more of a like sixth sense kind of
thing. Because it's obviously not as strong as the relationship between each member and Akito. Like Akito is obviously, that's another thing we can tell, is that Akito is very aware of the bond because she was able to tell instantly when it broke.
Yes.
But everyone else is just kind of like, does Kureno seem weird to you now?
Yeah.
Like,
guy. How come we never get to see him? Oh, or like Rin is like, he's suspicious. Like, whatever that feeling of uneasiness is, it turns into, it gets manipulated by the person, right? Like, I don't know. And Shigure never exactly says what he thought, but he obviously knew that something was up. You know, he brought it up a couple of times that something was up with Kureno.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. This is
Shigure's just like, I fucking hate that guy. So,
so mad. My notes. His expression when Kureno calls is so bitter. It was so like he's walking in his book and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" And then drops the book and is like, "Oh, it's you." Like, oh, it's so cold.
Yeah, like he's so like genuinely coldly angry talking to Kureno. Like we've seen Shigure angry before, but it's always got still kind of that sort of teasing malice.
Yeah.
Behind it all, but this is just like, fuck that guy.
Actually angry. And also most of this whole, so like I mentioned, I think in the New Year's one, the last episode that we talked about, like Shigure was standing off to the side conspicuously and he was kind of complaining about like, why do I have to be the one who takes care of Akito? Like I think that also happened again this time. He went to visit Akito and got turned away, and then he was talking to Hattori and he was like, why do I always, maybe we should make Yuki do the do the nursing or whatever, which was funny. But also like he just he seems to be very angry at Akito about something right now. And I guess maybe it's jealousy of Kureno, especially because we can tell how angry he is when Kureno answers the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think we can extrapolate something there. Like we've seen Shigure have a intimate relationship with Akito in past scenes. Like, yeah.
Almost as intimate as Kureno. We saw with Kureno recently. Yeah.
Yeah, and like we've seen like Shigure just be portrayed as generally being closer to Akito than the others. Like been people being like people have been like, oh well, why don't you deal with Akito and stuff, like obviously like expect and like Rin obviously expecting him to know things. So there seems to be some kind of close relationship there that makes him someone bitter about Akito quote unquote choosing Kureno. So
yeah, clearly being quote unquote choosing. I don't know in what way is it a choice, but you like like choice to be. They're like kissing, so romantically involved with. But I don't know. They all have like, it's interesting because like we see, I mean, Hattori picks up Akito. We've seen Akito act sort of like intimate. We talked about it before, like with other people in the Zodiac, like not just Shigure, not just Kureno, but specifically Kureno seems to be the current favorite, I guess.
Yeah, like we've seen Akito kind of like be kind of inappropriately touchy with other members of the Zodiac, but I think Kureno and Shigure are the only ones we've seen that we could call like outright sexual
Yeah, I think so.
in the interactions. So
not sexual.
Yeah.
Just like actually.
Yeah. Like the one I remember specifically for Shigure is like when Shigure kind of like convinces her to come to the beach house and kind of like he's like sitting down and like holding her hands and kind of like pulls her toward him.
Yeah.
And like her knee is like between his legs. Like
I remember describing very ambiguously seeing Shigure with his like from above or from below in a really early episode.
Where it was the panels were cut, but you could see like Akito from above and Shigure from below. That was pretty early on, and like reading it without knowing anything about them or their relationship yet, it didn't seem like anything. But looking back, you're like,
oh. The time we were like, oh, and I was like, oh, how to talk about without spoiling. It's just like just describe objectively, let everyone draw their own conclusions.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely looking back, you're like, this has been going on for a long time. But recently, we haven't seen Akito with Shigure very much, but we've seen Akito with Kureno a lot. So there's something going on where Shigure has been shunned in some way. And is clearly some
kind of love question mark triangle.
Some kind of intimacy question mark triangle. Yeah. I don't think I have any other things to say specifically about Kureno. I mean, I guess like in terms of plot stuff, he said he won't see. He like, once again told Tohru that he's not going to see Arisa again, and then left. He gave her back the DVD. He like we saw him with Akito a bunch of times, and I think I guess the only other thing is that Rin saw him there, which is lightly touched on. But I don't think I have any other things that I want to say about Kureno.
Yeah, not too much. Rin's pissed.
So pissed. So angry. Just enough to see her face be angry too.
Yeah.
Almost as angry as Shigure was. I wonder if there's a lot of people who think Kureno is kind of like boring, which is like not necessarily not true, but I feel like in these he's like the star character for a lot of this. Like obviously Akito is too, but a lot of this all revolves around Kureno and like their relationships. So like I can understand he's kind of pushed his affect down so he doesn't have to like
I mean he's
emotional.
He's kind of boring, but like deliberately so. Like he can't really help it. Like
I mean he cried. Listen.
Yeah, it's this I think he comes off very well in these.
I think even in this actually I really enjoyed
as a character, like being interesting as a character.
Yes, I agree. And I remember when reading the first part where he's sitting in the dark in his office, I was like, this is intense. Like it's he doesn't really say anything.
Yeah.
But the way that he acts, you can tell like how strong he feels, which I think is very interesting. And like just the way that it's drawn is nice. I enjoyed that part. Specifically of Kureno.
As a side note, I like to wonder what he was thinking for the first like several minutes of that play. Like it's like
no
give me this. Yeah.
You asked me last time how much is in the play, how much was on the DVD, and I was like, oh, I know, but I don't want to say.
Yeah.
All of it.
But apparently the entire play. I mean, Arisa doesn't show up for a little while, so he's just like
it's like, why did Tohru give me this DVD with her on it? It's very weird. What is this? Is this Cinderella? Like, what is happening?
Sort of Cinderella. Why is it called that?
I like to imagine that because when Momiji's holding the camera, all you hear is like mostly what you hear is him and Hiro and Kisa and Haru like giggling or like whispering. Yes. Can we talk more about Shigure? I have some other things that I want to say about him.
Yes, let's.
Okay. So he said he did his like I'm a man with very little merit or whatever quote again. And I was like, this is a specific quote. I think I can find it in my notes. Do you know when it's from? It's from when he talked to Rin before the beach. It was revealed in chapter 78, which is like after it was like Rin's memory of the time that they talked before the beach when he says there. It's like the end of their because like right before they talk, what we see that one chapter where she goes to talk to him is him just saying like, shall we begin? And then she gives the details of that much later.
Yeah.
So it was in that time. And I feel like he also mentioned something like this to Hattori before. So like he said it a couple of times, I feel like he keeps saying that he's a bad guy. And then I loved how Hattori was like, oh, it's the worst thing is that you know that and you refuse to do anything about it.
Yeah. I kind of love that face he makes afterward. Like, yep, that's me. Oh well. Yeah, it's very like dramatic shrug. Like you can see him
He's like, ain't I just a stinker?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is like that.
But yeah, he's definitely made the like I'm a terrible person kind of comments before in the same kind of like, but I'm not going to do anything about it
Yeah,
attitude. Like,
for sure. I do like how he was like, does it matter that who I said this to? Anyway, and just kind of like, I wonder if it does. It was Rin. I wonder if it means something. Not really. Like, I don't know, but not more than I did before, I think. But
it kind of feels like he's like, I've thought this a lot, so I can't remember who I actually said it to.
I'm a bad guy, you know.
Just a bad dude.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, but just
Rebel
interesting that
without
it
a
came.
cause.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know if he's a rebel. I think he's just being very
He has a
he's
cause.
angry. He has a cause.
It's a very bad cause, but he has a cause.
And it's like it's not like he's particularly being a jerk or anything, but he's very, very mad about this situation. You can tell it's manifesting.
Yeah, he's very like this is a very bitter set of chapters for Shigure. Like,
and I mean, like I know that feel. Listen,
yeah, it's very like childishly bitter. Like we've seen that Shigure can be very childish in the past, but just the way he's acting, like I don't know, Yuki should do it, and like, oh, she picked Kureno, and oh, like,
yeah, it is kind of like that. Yeah,
why should I do anything?
Yeah, he said to Rin, like the ones who care about it should do something, which is also, you know, it's kind of along the same lines, but. He's a very well-defined character.
Yeah.
He's predictable.
Yeah, Shigure is always very Shigure.
Yeah. I don't have any other Sohmas to talk about. I want to talk about what happened with Tohru's friends, I think. Okay. Or I guess after. That would include Kyo too, but
yeah.
Can we is there anything
friends, but not those guys.
No, fuck those guys. So we talked about a lot of the like big reveals. Are we ready to talk about the aftermath, or is there anything else that we want to say?
We've hit the curse reveal, the Akito reveal, and the Ren reveal. Those are the big ones.
Yep, I would say so. Yeah. Let's talk about. Definitely, it was a big deal. It's like a home run of of reveals, sports metaphors. What everyone can relate to, right? Let's talk about the friends and kind of like what happened after. So, first of all, Tohru was there at the park, I guess, for a while, and Hana actually felt how she was feeling, I guess, with her powers. So we've heard about Hana's powers in the past, but I think this is like kind of a new detail there, where she can tell, like, not just up close how somebody's feeling, but also from far away, maybe if she knows them or something like that. So.
Yeah, seems to be at least unique to her close friends, if not Tohru specifically.
Yeah, I don't know. When we saw the chapter with the three of them, I feel like her reactions were specifically focused around Tohru and like wanting to be Tohru's friend and stuff like that. So could be, but I mean, I think that she can. Well, she says that she can tell there's something different about both of them, both Arisa and Tohru.
Yeah,
so.
I just don't know for like long distance phone call.
denpa.
So yeah, it would also work for Uo, or
I think you just have to be really, 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 really upset.
Yeah,
then maybe it would work. But yeah, she says like, you called, so I came, which is really nice, and it was very sweet. The whole like kind of after situation is all very kind.
Yeah, it's
very
a sweet chapter. It's the palate cleanser we needed.
Definitely. Because, Akito's relationship with Ren is so bad. Like, everything was so bad.
Yeah.
And so sad with all the, like, with the breaking up of the bond and stuff. But yeah, then we have this, like, nice friendship bond, which is great.
Yeah.
I like that Megumi comes too. I like that he's involved in the whole thing.
Yeah. Megumi's cute. I like him. Yeah. He never has much to do, but he's always pleasant to see in the background of something.
He's like, I'm here to like drop some wisdom and make a joke about being surrounded by older women, and like, okay, like I'm down with this.
But he's always just, cute and very supportive of Hana.
And Hana's friends.
Yeah.
It seems like they have the kind of like, like once you're a friend, your family kind of vibe with their family. It's very cute.
Yeah. But yeah, it's almost like a deliberate contrast between positive and negative bonds.
Almost like, in fact, if you there's a lot of feathers when she comes to
Yeah,
actually.
it's a great set of chapters for feather theory.
Feather theory is definitely supported by everything that happens.
Black feathers, we got white feathers. We got feathers out the wazoo.
Yeah, so many feathers. More feathers than you know what to do with.
More feathers than your body has room for.
Did we make the joke last time? We definitely made the joke, but wasn't about feathers. I don't think so.
I don't know.
We
We're
haven't
here to
made-
bring you the outdated memes.
we haven't had any like rants yet. I'm pretty proud of us. But it's okay. I'll think of something in between spoilers and this, I guess. But like, yeah, there's a lot of good feathers. There's feathers at the, when we see like Kureno being released from the curse, and I think like we can kind of say that the white feathers being a good thing,
Yeah,
relating to something good.
I don't know if we've extensively talked about this in non-spoilers, but the basic gist of it is that white feathers seem to represent like change and like positive change, positive bonds, and black feathers kind of represent the negative changes and negative bonds, relationships. So we get a little bit of both of those in all these chapters.
Yeah, there's like white feathers when Kureno's being released, and I think based on like the way that he described that he feels like the bond is unnatural, I think we can kind of interpret it as being a good thing, kind of like based on the way that he felt.
One of my favorite bits of the feathers, though, is how in kind of the end of chapter 96 into the beginning of chapter 97, it's kind of describing the breaking of the bond. You get all these white feathers, and then like they turn into black feathers when he's kind of describing the kind of negative emotions around everything.
Yeah, you're right. At the end, when he walks up to when Kureno walks up to Tohru, it's white. It transitions into the next chapter, which is also white. It's when Akito's like waking up, and then when he starts to, and then when he kind of picks her up because Tohru's on the ground. Then when he hugs her, when Kureno hugs her, they transition into like black feathers, and they start talking about the curse. But yeah, I think there was actually. Let me double check.
There's there's a couple where like you see white feathers and then you see black feathers. Like you see white feathers when they're talking about like when Akito was conceived and they first were like going to see her and being like, we've been waiting and all that. And then like in the scene in the present day where, Akito's like freaking out at Ren and Hattori's trying to comfort her, it turns into black feathers.
And actually, I was wrong. I thought that it was white feathers when Hana came to find Tohru when she's still outside, but it's actually black too. So it's more, I guess, more like the overwhelming sort of like negative aspects that she's thinking about. She screamed and Hana came.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. There's some good there isn't. I think like this kind of visual language of Furuba is pretty well defined at this point, but there were some interesting things that I noticed. Like I also noticed that normally when there's kind of like bad flashbacks, they have that kind of like black background. But in a lot of the ones, there's these flashbacks with Akito, like with when Kureno's talking about Akito, and they're kind of mixed. Like so one of them is they have like a texture instead of being fully black, which I thought was kind of an interesting use of like background texture there. So for example, at the beginning of chapter 98, if anybody's following along at home. So it's kind of it's like when Kureno reveals that Akito is a girl, there's kind of this like mixed dark texture. Like you don't just have like a solid black flashback like we normally have for a lot of them. Even like after Rin finds her, this is like toward the end of 98 also, there's some like kind of mixed black background texture too. So yeah, it's just interesting. It's interesting that it's kind of still kind of like represents the same thing, but I think like in these chapters it kind of represents the duality of the negative and positive aspects of the curse.
They're chapters of mixed emotions. So
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Ow, excuse you.
Rude. There's some. Can we talk about some themes? There was a lot.
Themes.
I have a list that were being represented. I mean, I think there wasn't anything like necessarily new, I think, but we've before we talked about things like, just the theme generally of change and moving forward. That's obviously still represented here as how, we see the the way the curse is broken and how it changed and how Kureno's perspective changed over time and all those kind of things like are building on that. Of course, bonds being good and bad. We just talked about the feathers, which I think still continues to be a visual representation of that aspect of the story. We also had the like, kind of like, I don't know if it's a theme or if it's kind of like a thing. It's a thing that gets mentioned a lot of like people meeting and kind of making an impact in someone's life. Kureno has this like when he's talking about not seeing Akito or not seeing Uo again, he says like our meeting we just met 2 times, it was trivial, whatever. And then he remembers Arisa saying like it wasn't trivial to me. And then like a little bit later in his dialogue, he's like, no, it meant something to me. Like I can't give up Akito, so it kind of like flip-flops on that. But I thought that was a very interesting representation of that theme specifically, or that idea specifically that comes up a lot.
Yeah. As a side note, I think that's a scene that makes me like Kureno a lot, where he's like trying to be like, oh no, it's fine, everything's fine, you don't have to worry, it'll be fine. And then like when she touches his face and he's crying, like I don't think he even realized he was crying, and then he's like, no, it's not fine, I'm not okay. Like I'm trying to be good and not hurt people, but
all I do is make people worried. Like I hurt Akito, I hurt you, I hurt I can't win. Like there's no I think you really get a sense of his like desperation, which we didn't really get before. Like
which I
he
think
seemed just kind of weird.
I think it's demonstrated by the opening lines of the chapter where he says like it was like a freedom in a new cage, basically. And it's like he obviously feels very trapped, like not just by like, I think he felt somewhat trapped by his need to be by Akito before, but now he feels like he has no good choices, kind of trapped. Like
and he felt like, I think he was like, I made this decision. Like he says these things like, I made this decision myself, I'm the one who decided. But then it's like, then he flip-flops again and is like, but this is the first time that it was the first time that I felt like attracted to someone or attachment with someone who, after I became human, after I like became myself, almost. I made air quotes. Kayla can see them, but you guys can't. Sorry. Like that's so. Yeah, you could see how conflicted he is. It just very demonstrates how emotional and conflicted he is about the whole situation. So that was. And then the last kind of like themes that I had were like, I don't know if we've ever really talked about this before, but it's been touched on, so I don't know why we haven't, which is like a theme of something like rebirth or like second chances. Like we have these like moments, like just the fact that the curse like repeats and the Junichi are reborn, I feel like is something that kind of like is a symbol of that. Like you have an opportunity to change things over and over again, but it's remain the same. And then in Kureno's case, it's kind of when he's talking about like, I was able to become me and like have my own identity. It feels like those are related ideas.
Yeah, it's definitely been strongly associated with the Kureno and Uo plot.
Yeah.
It's like when Tohru first went to meet Kureno and gave him Arisa's like address or whatever. And he said like for tomorrow. She said like for tomorrow, because you never know what'll happen tomorrow, and maybe days, months, weeks, years from now, but you never know, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
One line I liked in this was at the very end from Megumi when he talks about like some things take a long time and nothing has been a waste.
Yeah.
I like that attitude. It's kind of like I don't really like the phrase like everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the idea that nothing has been a waste, because like you get something out of everything you experience.
Yeah.
Even if it was terrible. Like
I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. Yeah, it's like people saying everything happens for a reason is like kind of like shorthand for that. It's like, well, like
sometimes it's like what people mean, but like when you say it, it's like, really?
No, sometimes things don't happen for a reason, but it's more like
sometimes shitty things just happen and it's not good,
but it happened. But it's more like it's like the experiences that you have, like you can't just discount them even if they're bad, I guess. It's like kind of the is like kind of the sentiment in both cases. But the way that Megumi says it is nicer. It's like it wasn't a waste. I like how Uo was like, that's my motto. That's that's my creed. Which is hilarious. It's such a weird word that people don't normally use it frequently.
Like I've had I've had someone say to me like they were talking about like work and like their bosses and stuff. They said they learned something from every boss they had, either what to do or what not to do. So,
yeah, for sure. Definitely. my mom once said, sometimes you grow because of people, sometimes you grow in spite of people, which is kind of the same situation. It's like you sometimes grow because of a scenario that you're in, sometimes you grow in spite of it. And
Mhm.
it's also the same kind of like sentiment, but it is nicely worded. There's a lot of good dialogue in these chapters, I think. A lot of poignant things to say. That's one of them. Megumi has most of them.
Yeah.
Because he's the kind of like, I don't know.
He's a good boy.
He is a good boy. I like how Hana's like, bad boy Megumi.
Yeah.
I just say, it's like you can't just ask people why they're black. I mean, There, I dropped a cultural reference.
Yeah.
Is that good?
Just as outdated as the other one.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, anyway, it was great. Those are the it's kind of like everything that I wanted to talk about. That's not
I just
spoiler.
realized we were talking about Toru's friends. We didn't actually transition back to talking about Kyo and Yuki afterwards.
You're right. You're right. I forgot about that. Yes, Kyo picks up
those
her.
guys.
Yeah, those guys. I mean, Well, Yuki's main contribution was just poor cooking skills, which is fine because that was great.
I do like the scene at the end when like Toru and Kyo are smiling at each other, and Yuki walks in and sees them and smiles also. Like that's a big sign of the growth of his attitude toward them and his life and their relationships, all three of their relationships. So
I also feel like that's kind of a recent change because he used to be like, "Ugh, stupid cat,"
like I
I
know how to deal with it. Like used to see a lot of them where he'd see them together and be like,
"I'm leaving."
Like I don't know what to do with all this. So.
I'm overwhelmed because I care about everyone. Yeah.
But now he's kind of come to terms with how he feels about both of them. So
and wanting them to be happy with each other, I guess.
Like
recognizing that they're making their little baby steps in their relationship.
Yeah.
I like that Kyo picked up the scarf in the first place. Like it's a nice little addition at the end of the chapter. So
yeah, he's shown like with Toru, he's good at like remembering little things and noticing little things with her. So
yeah,
and
he can do a good job.
Yeah, it was obviously very, very much appreciated by Toru after everything she had to deal with in those chapters.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the happiest panels we see of Toru, like especially in these chapters, but
even recently though, actually, now that you mentioned
just in general, like it's one of the happier panels.
Just beaming. It's like it's beyond a smile. It's very sweet.
Yeah. It's one of those like when someone does something nice for you, it's always nice, but sometimes someone does something nice for you at just the right time.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what you've been going through, but it was just perfect timing. So
it's just the right gesture at the right time. Yeah, for sure. Well, we can end on that happy note.
Yeah.
With our non-spoilers.
Happy.
So, great.
It's happy. It's great. It's fine.
Yeah. So nothing bad can happen now.
We'll be fine.
Only 30% of the story left to go.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll all be happy from here.
Okay, no comment. Again, it's the happy shoujo that we all signed up for. Right?
Yeah,
it's the rom-com.
It's what it still says on the back of the manga.
Yep. That's true. Yep. It's rated 13+. I hope everyone's over 13 in the stream. I mean, okay. I don't. Yeah, really. Do you have to sign? Do you remember like in the olden days where they used to have like sign up things that were like, check this box if you're like over 13 to have a Neopets account, and you're like, I'm definitely over 13.
I like get a parent to wear a Nickelodeon magazine for you.
Yeah, I just had a flashback to the Nickelodeon magazine. Okay, is there anything else you want to talk about, or shall we transition into spoilers?
I think that's all I've got for non-spoilers.
All right, good. If you're not listening to spoilers, then you can drop off the stream now. Otherwise, you can stick around for all the hot goss that we're going to talk about Furuba. Let me do my next ditty on the ukulele. But thank you all for listening. Thank you for tuning in so much for the stream. I thought this was really fun. It's too bad we were slightly late, so sorry. But, technical difficulty. I mean, it was fine when we were testing. Kayla and I sat around here for like 20 minutes, and we're like...
Yeah, it's like the second you clicked, let's make it live, everything started going wrong.
What happened was I clicked let's make it live, and then I looked at the Twitch stream, and I think my computer just exploded is what happened. Like looking at when you like in like what's that movie, I can't remember, the one with Matthew McConaughey where he's like in the Tesseract and it's like everything is like reflected over time.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's a space movie. It's fine, don't worry about it. Anyway, yeah, it was like when you have like 2 mirrors and you look into one and then you see you know what I mean? And they're facing each other. It was like that.
Okay.
I made everyone can understand my metaphors.
Thank you, chat.
Yes, Interstellar, that's it. The chat's been super helpful today. Yes. I don't have to like cut out like normally what happens in the situation is there's like 20 minutes of silence while I Google what the movie is and then tell Kayla and then I just cut the 20 minutes in the edited version. Yes, Interstellar. It's a good time. Okay, we're gonna wrap up with non-spoilers. We're gonna move on to spoilers. Thank you all for listening so much. It was really fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you so if you're sticking around for spoilers, we'll just hang on. I'll play the music. If you're not, then drop off now because we're going to talk about spoilers, and there's a lot to be spoiled. So, thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oops. No. Don't make fun of me.
Live performance.
You know, when you do a live performance, you don't get the opportunity to not mess up. So you just keep going. It's called like, you know, the show must go on. Yeah. You just pretend.
Freddie Mercury said.
That was your cue. If you're still listening to this and you don't want to listen to spoilers, then drop off. But I imagine that people who are listening to this want to listen to spoilers. I have a suspicion that most of the people who listen to this have already read the series and are just like, oh my god, content, which is the reason why I thought we should start it in the first place. Okay.
All right. Start soon.
Oh my god. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that. I know. It's like not next. It's next week.
6th or something.
The 6th. So this is the first. This week it will be April 1st in a couple of days. Probably when this comes out. I definitely didn't count. Maybe April 2nd.
Fools. What kind of pranks can you pull from your isolation?
You can do pranks on your you know, people who are living with you in isolation. You can do pranks on Bowie.
Yeah.
How about that?
He pranks me.
Yeah, he does. I was
taking a nap one time and he just like started nibbling on my toes. I was like, what? It's not a pleasant way to wake up. As a side note.
I feel like that's like hashtag pets. Like yeah. That's the time where
don't fall asleep with your feet peeking out of your blanket if you have a bird.
Or like a cat or any other animal that freely roams your house. I feel like your toes are subject to harassment if you do that regardless.
Yeah.
All right. Spoilers. Let's jump in.
Let's spoil.
Let's spoil and be spoiled, as I like to say. Akito first. Shall we talk about that?
Sure.
I mean, like, it's kind of the big deal, right?
Yeah.
So, this is my like breakdown of why Akito is like, or like what, not why, but what events are presented to us. I've read many, many chapters ahead of this to make sure that I was prepared for this conversation. But Akira said that Akito was born to be loved, and when Akito was born, Akira started to only pay attention to her, and Ren was jealous, and Ren basically constantly told Akito that she wasn't needed.
Yeah,
and as a background.
Yeah, which you know is a recurring string of words.
Yeah, you're not needed.
Series in general, but especially from Akito's mouth. So it's kind of like, I wonder where that came from.
I wonder where any of this comes from. Well, everything, you know, all your problems in life are caused by your parents, right?
Yeah, they're so. Yeah, the more you learn about Akito's childhood, the more so much makes sense. Like, yeah, spoiler alert: Akito's childhood sucked.
Akito's childhood sucked, just like everybody else. But Akito uses it for good and not or for evil and not good, or like for manipulation, not necessarily evil. That's a strong word.
Yeah,
Akito's version of keeping the Junisha together is to do that in a sort of Machiavellian way, which is like to try to intimidate them or socially manipulate them, or like romantically manipulate them somehow. But it's interesting that like.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like she'll do whatever it takes to keep them close, and like so far this has worked best for her, so she's gonna keep doing it.
I was just gonna say that it's interesting that you pointed out that Ren was told Akito that she wasn't needed, but like Akito tells Rin that she isn't needed as well. Like she's like, you're just here to make the numbers work out. Which
she's also said it to Yuki during her breakdown where she said like, no, I'm needed, you're not,
You're
only
not.
here because I'm important, like,
Mhm.
which was obviously a reassurance to herself as much as it was yelling at Yuki. So.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. And it was that was after that Kureno's curse was broken, most likely. But yeah, and one other thing that I have to say about Ren and Akito's kind of like background situation is that Ren basically like bet Akito that if the Junichi had a taste of kind of the outside world, then they would leave her. This referenced when Ren is like, "Oh, I wonder, can you really win like that?"
Yeah.
Which we didn't touch on at all in the earlier part of the discussion because it seems kind of out of place, but that's what it was a reference to.
Yeah, and that was like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was like right before Tohru came into the picture, and Akito was like, yes, letting Tohru in will prove that they will stay with me even with a taste of the outside world, which is why. Because like you may be like looking back after all this like stuff and be like, why did Akito say yes to this? Like,
I always wondered that.
But yeah.
It's like, why would you do obviously you care about keeping them together. Why would you
deliberately obviously like pure spite and defiance toward Ren.
Prove Ren wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like right after that is when Shigure left too. I can't remember exactly what happened, but I remember there's a scene where they're kind of like arguing about him leaving. Like toward the end of the series. So, but yeah,
I can't remember exactly what it is, but I know like Akito's like, you left me, and Shigure's like, you told me to, and he's like, you should have argued, basically, because basically Shigure was like, okay, bye, and she's like, wait, what?
She's like, I wanted you to say that you didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Shigure's like, oh, you mean I can live outside? Sweet.
Yeah. They're so terrible to each other in like the exact same ways. It's kind of hilarious.
They definitely have a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not healthy, I don't think. That's my opinion about that.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that Akito also made a bet with Kyo, that if he could beat Yuki, then she would let him in the Zodiac or whatever. Like, oh yeah, so making a bet with someone. I wonder where that idea comes from. Like, I guess it's like, I don't know. I feel like what we're saying in a roundabout way. It feels like what we're saying in a roundabout way is like Ren is the cause of Akito's issues, but like it's like more than one thing. Like it's not just this.
Yeah. She's the root of most of Akito's issues, not the direct cause.
The inception.
Like, most things you can trace back to Ren in some way.
That's right. Someone in the chat also commented that Shigure slept with Ren, which is also true.
Yeah,
also
that was the inciting incident of Akito telling him to get out. But
yes.
But yeah, that's also a big factor in the relationships there.
Yeah, definitely. And also, like you can see, we didn't really talk about it, but Ren. That's why Akito is so concerned about Ren getting too close to the other. Older male Junichi.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she explicitly says in this chapter, like, whenever you get close to like a male member of the Junichi, you start coming onto them. Like, and the like absolute desperation, she has to keep her away from Hattori in that scene. Like,
yes.
Like she like throws her whole body between them.
Yeah. Which is like, it feels like an overreaction for someone who literally just like stuck her arm out of a room and like touched him, you know?
Yeah.
But I guess in her case, like the person that Akito, you know, I think that the person that Akito has the strongest feelings for is Shigure, and then like Akito uses these other people to manipulate him, and then he did the same thing to her by sleeping with Ren. So, completely healthy relationship all around. Yeah, I think that's that interaction.
This comes in the next two chapters. I think the only thing that's not explicitly revealed in these chapters is that Shigure and Akito have had a relationship for a while.
Yeah,
but it's pretty strongly implied.
I mean, I don't know how you could see those things and not see the things that we've seen and not think that. I mean, maybe that's an overstatement, but it's obviously they have a thing going on, and we've talked about it. So.
Yeah,
but yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about in regards to Akito is Akira.
Yeah, good call.
We only get one little glimpse of him in this chapter. It's not enough to really like make any calls, but like I don't think Akira did Akito any favors either.
No, I don't think so.
In his parenting.
Akira was just like, "You are amazing, and you and and like yeah, and everyone's been waiting for you." Like it, I don't know how to describe that, but I mean, it would obviously give you a complex of being like
Yeah,
you're.
especially like your one parent is saying this, and your one parent is saying you're the greatest thing in the world. Your other parent saying you're the worst
Yeah,
like thing in the world and you're worthless. And then to
yeah,
top it all off, when Akira died, like the last thing he said was that like, oh, Akito being so special is proof of how great my relationship with Ren was. So it
mhm.
like gets that impression that like Akito didn't even matter to Akira that much in the end, which
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think is true, but you can see how that would really fuck with a kid.
it would certainly could come off that way, and
Yeah.
like yeah, and then you have Ren being like, "Our me and Akira, we have something special. Nobody else can have that, not even you." Like
Mhm,
it's sort of like you know, a true relationship is just unattainable in light of
mhm,
the curse and stuff. But I mean, just in general, like Ren also, you know, Akito may be sort of I don't know if you want to call it like deluded in thinking that she's, you know, the only thing that matters in her bond. This is completely um like unchanging and it's guaranteed. But
mhm,
Ren also has these like crazy deluded ideas too that like she was like, "Oh, Akira and me are special." And then as soon as Akito was born, Akira was just like, "Peace." Like
mm,
she
yeah,
didn't matter that much to him anymore, which is
yeah.
also very
Yeah, they
overwhelming.
really had, Ren and Akito really had very similar insecurities and,
Mhm.
like, they were, like, so tied up on one specific idea of a bond, and then, like, when anything threatened that, they just, like, did not know how to handle that.
Mhm. And like I think the it's kind of interesting something that I thought of when I was reading these, which is not necessarily spoilery, but uh like, Akira and Ren's relationship kind of reminded me of, like, Kyoko and Katsuya's a little bit, like, not to the same extent and not necessarily the same way, but just the fact that, like, Ren's kind of world view and almost, like, identity I don't know if it's not which we don't get a lot of exploration into how she felt other than that it their relationship was special and amazing and whatever,
Mhm,
but, like, the fact that she still kinda clings on to this, it kinda reminded me of, like, what Kyoko's experience was like right after Katsuya died.
mhm.
How much it impacted how much their relationships kind of, like, impacted their personal identity, I
Yeah.
guess. I
It's
don't really
kind
have,
of
like, a
like yeah.
theoretical comment
They
about
kind
that.
of both have some of that because Akira's, like, world was so, like, small and isolated and
Yeah,
felt like Ren, like, opened it up for him and, like, cared
just
about him
barely.
and for the first time and everything, so it's kind of
Yeah,
that same feeling of, like, you know, putting all your, feelings on this one person because they're the first one to,
yeah,
like, actually reach out to you.
yeah, and yeah, Akira was like, "No, Ren understands me."
Mhm,
And because, like, what I didn't remember, which I recently reread, was that Ren was one of the maids and, like, everybody in the family was against it, so in that way, it's also similar to Kyoko and
mhm,
Katsuya's arrangement too.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, Akira was like, "No, Ren understands me," and Ren was all
mhm,
smug about that, and then Akito came along, and that changed everything. So
yeah,
it's kind of the root of her jealousy and like her reasons for why she hates Akito, basically, and like wants
yeah,
to um has all these arguments with her and stuff like that.
mhm,
But yeah. I thought it was interesting that Akito also argued with her about how fucked up all the like parental love
mhm.
in the family was too.
Yeah, it
Like
is
she
interesting, like, she seems like, genuinely kinda bitter and angry that
yeah,
her parents didn't, like, care for her and raise her in a good way, like,
yeah.
she seems, like, somewhat aware of the fact that, like, she had a shitty childhood.
I guess so, and I mean like, I feel like before we've seen Akito talk about the other Junichi's relationship with their parents in, like, more of also a manipulative way, like,
Mhm,
when she was telling Yuki as a child, like, "Oh, did you hear the cat's mother, like, committed suicide? Oh, did
mhm,
you hear, like, this thing and that thing?" But in this, when it's kinda flipped around and she's arguing with Ren, she seemed, like, more, like, concerned about it rather than,
mhm,
aloof about it maybe.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't know, I also don't have a lot to say about that, but I thought it
mhm,
was an interesting thing that she chose like, that she says.
yeah,
She's like, "Well, you can't convince me that any of these other types of relationships are real or permanent." Um,
mhm,
the crux of, like, the series, I think, is that, like, you know, love things aren't permanent. love isn't permanent. We
Yeah.
see that be manifested a lot. So Akito's clinging to it is, obviously what drives the conflict.
Hmm.
But then you have someone like Ren saying like none of it's real, which is also not
Yeah.
necessarily true.
Hmm.
But or at least I don't know. I mean, that's what I
Yeah.
think at least.
Hmm.
um, but yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting to see their debate about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any other stuff that we want to say about Akito or about Ren or
Um,
Akira or anything like that?
I don't think
I
so.
feel like the spoiler section is going to be slightly short because a lot of things were revealed.
Hmm.
Always. They're going to get shorter and shorter.
Yeah.
But
Spoiler section in the last episode.
yeah, no. Well, yeah, I guess there's another, but
Yeah. I haven't read very much of that.
I haven't either, so I wouldn't be able to spoil it. But yeah, Akito. Okay, so we talked about Akito. We talked about the things that Akito argued with Ren about, which I think were interesting. We already kind of talked about Shigure a lot. I don't know why I have this as a spoiler, but like um, it's their relationship is going to get some attention in the next couple of chapters.
Hmm.
So we have that coming up.
Yeah. We'll also see future curse breaking scenes,
Yep,
which will have yeah,
that we shall.
yep, which will have similar imagery and reactions from Akito.
And reactions from the Junishu
Yeah.
themselves.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah,
I
I think
was,
the first one we see is Momiji,
I'm pretty sure that that's
and
first in Hero.
yeah, and his is pretty interesting because it has the same kind of like Akito realizes immediately and comes to him. It's like in the middle of the night,
Hmm.
like and desperately and like begging him not to leave, but Momiji's like, yeah, I got a lot to think about, so I'll talk to you later.
So harsh.
Yeah.
But Momiji
I
doesn't have the
mean,
same
fair.
attachment.
Yeah.
I mean, it is fair, and I think that
Yeah,
that's
he's
like,
actually Momiji's incredibly nice. Like,
yeah, that's probably more the expected reaction. It's like, how about
yeah,
we talk about this later?
yeah.
um, and then I don't remember how Akito specifically reacts to Hiro. That might be right before all the other like in the midst of the other drama that's going on.
Yeah, I think I think it happens while Akito's in the middle of some other incident and you see like the feathers and Akito's like arm kind of drops
Yeah.
and, and she reacts badly. But
There's the big blow up where Akito stabs Kureno, which was also foreshadowed, I think, by some of the imagery. There was like these
mhm.
flowers with blood on it. But like that's like a whole slew of things that happen. I
Yeah, I
wonder,
think it happens
well,
in the midst of that. I think she's like
probably.
arguing with Ren at the time.
Yeah. It's
And
like
then like
Ren and
here
then
yeah.
it's focused on Kureno and then she runs off
Yeah.
and then focused on Tohru later.
Hmm.
And it's like a long kind of a drawn out single incident.
Yeah. And I think Hero's curse breaks in the middle of that and acts as kind of a trigger for whoops, sorry. Acts kind of a trigger for her like worst tendencies in that
Yeah.
argument. Yeah.
And then the rest all break later at
Yeah,
the
because she kind of like lets them go.
that's what it seems like. That's what's
Yeah.
implied.
Hmm.
Um, which kind of implies that they have like I guess it's an ongoing question is like why does the curse break? Like why did Kureno's curse break? I don't think it's ever
Hmm.
really explored.
Hmm.
Same with Momichi's, it seems kind of sudden. Like obviously everyone's trending toward like a specific direction. Like I think some of the things that Kureno my personal theory, I guess, is like some of the things Kureno said hint at like the Junichi being possessed and like having this like their own individual identity kind of suppressed by the curse. And I
Hmm.
think like what we're kind of seeing in the development of Yuki and why he was so distant and why that kind of triggered Akito and how like when we is kind of the same like
I'm looking at the chat. That's a good good summary.
yeah, basically it says for people who are listening record later it says she reacts badly the Akito story. Like a Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
Like but like I think what was I saying? I got distracted. um
But,
like I think like what's happening is when they start to maybe develop another identity and like start to lose is like not care about the attachment to the curse so much. Like even Shigure
mhm.
kind of points at this when he's talking to Tori and he's like, but you can't let go of the like you can't let go of the bond. You hate
Mhm.
it, but you can't let go of it. And I think
Yeah.
like for someone like Momiji who's always been sort of looked down on by Akito and doesn't have that relationship, and like Yuki who's someone who um is always trying to change and grow and move forward, and then you have someone like Hiro who has another person to be more attached to when his sister is
Mhm.
born. Like I think that that's what sort of contributes to their curses being broken to people's curses being broken early. Like that's what it seems to
Yeah.
hint at to me based on the things that we heard and have seen.
Yeah, it seems like I think we've seen already, and then like they'll talk about it more about like the curse just kind of generally weakening since it's been so long.
Yeah.
And then like I think it's also that it seems like the Junichi haven't been able to like be outside of the little Sohma circle and make bonds for a long time because the family's so insular.
Yeah.
And so like the fact that so many of them right now are able to like step outside of that and form new bonds and get a sense of self is like kind of hurrying that along.
Yeah, it seems like.
Yeah, and then it seems like the final thing that was holding on to it was Akito's like desperation to hold on to it. And so when she's willing to let that go,
yeah,
the
willing
rest
to
is
let
able
go.
to the rest is
The
able to
idea
break.
permanence. Yeah, then the
Yeah.
rest is able to break. Yeah, because I think when the curse breaks, it's all like one by one,
Mhm.
like I'm releasing you and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be a good time. Something to look forward to.
Mhm.
So many cheers.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like how the ending, that end part of the ending is presented, the whole like breaking of the curse and
Yeah.
getting the like true version of the Zodiac story and then kind of the conclusion of it. It's a part I really like.
Yeah, it's a good end to a good series.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it does a good job summarizing kind of like everything that was presented and happened. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't have any other spoilers. Do you?
Just that Hana's fear about Tohru being crushed by others' feelings was very ominous.
Yeah, I guess. I guess. She said that before. Haven't people said that before? I feel like Hana said that before too. But like,
Yeah, they talked more generally about like, oh, you shouldn't put all your feelings on that girl; it'll overwhelm her. But
yeah,
it's
Michael was
specifically
great
coming,
too.
yeah, it's just specifically coming from Hana, and in that phrasing is very kind of.
Hana's also like, I don't know if this is the end of the story yet. Like,
Yeah.
with Uo and Kureno.
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah.
with a giant wink toward the fourth wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very ominous. Do you think it like refers to a specific thing that happens?
I don't know, like it could be the like very ending kind of thing, but like
Yeah.
it doesn't exactly fit that, but it does kind of seem like Toru kind of breaking down from
Dealing with everybody's
dealing with
crap.
everyone's feelings, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But also, like, I think Toru's growth in this story
Yeah.
also has to do with that, like, kind of overcoming her
Mhm.
own things that hold her
Yeah.
back.
Yeah,
about
like
her
I think the positive part is that it doesn't completely crush her or destroy her smile or whatever she said, like, but
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
But it is, ominous foreshadowing for sure.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else left to say, for this episode.
Mhm.
I think this was
Yeah.
a good time. I feel like this was a success. We've wrapped in
Yeah.
under 2 hours, or just over 2 hours too, so
Yeah.
'cause we didn't have a 30-minute rant that I cut, so yeah.
I mean, there's still time.
Yeah, I know, that's true. Like, stick around for rants. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have
Yeah.
anything left to say, so I
Mhm.
think we can wrap up.
Yeah, only a couple of bird noises and
Yeah, only a couple bird noises. There wasn't any thunder. Nobody lost there was last time we recorded or 2 times ago, my power was cut 3 times in a row, which was
Yeah.
exciting, so that didn't happen.
Mhm. No train.
No oh, yeah, no train. There's a train by Kayla's house, so, usually we have to stop for the train, but that didn't happen either, so
Yeah.
I hope everyone
Actually, I heard it a little before we started, and so I was like, "Maybe that means it won't come again." So,
well, I guess you're right.
yep.
Alright. Yeah, thank you all for joining us live. It was a good time. I
Yeah,
appreciated
it's
interacting
fun.
with the chat. There's a comment in the chat that says, "I like the bird noises. You should introduce Bowie."
Yeah, he's glad people like his noises because he
Yeah.
likes to scream. Yeah,
He does like
wanna
to
see
scream.
noises? You give
He
me
makes
kisses?
some cute noises too.
Yeah, he usually makes cute little noises, but sometimes he's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
hey, pay attention to me."
Sometimes you can hear them if you listen very carefully in the editing, 'cause, like, they're really hard to edit out, but he'll be like,
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
really good. I like that. Anyway, if he's not feeling chatty, I can wrap up. I'm
Mhm.
prepared to perform live again. This time I might get
Okay.
it right. Alright, thank you all for listening. Thanks for joining us. Thanks always for listening and sending comments, and
Mhm.
I don't know, we're having a good time. I hope everybody's doing okay in these uncertain times, but yeah, I don't know. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you
Yeah.
next time for chapters 100 and 101. That's what we'll be covering next time.
Yep.
Alright. Bye.
Bye-bye. Play us out.
Yeah, I did it right.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks. All right, bye.